Have you ever wondered why Japanese culture seems so distinct and fascinating to the rest of the world? This question has been asked by many, and it's not without reason. Japan, a small island nation in the Far East, has a culture that is rich, complex, and often quite puzzling to outsiders. It's a land where ancient traditions coexist with cutting-edge technology, where samurais and sumo wrestlers share the spotlight with manga artists and J-pop idols. This fusion of the old and new, traditional and modern, creates a vibrant and unique cultural tapestry that is distinctly Japanese. But why is it that some perceive this culture as weird? Could it be because it's so different from what we're used to? Or maybe it's due to our lack of understanding. It's important to remember that what may seem weird to one person might be completely normal to another. Consider, for example, the Japanese concept of omotenashi, a deep-rooted practice of hospitality that extends beyond mere customer service. Or the art of kintsugi, where broken pottery is repaired with gold, embracing the flaws and making them part of the object's history. These practices might seem unusual to outsiders, but they are integral to Japanese culture. One could argue that the perception of Japanese culture as weird arises from a Western-centric viewpoint. We tend to judge other cultures based on our own standards. And when something doesn't fit into our box of normal, we label it as weird. But isn't it this very uniqueness that makes cultures so fascinating? However, it's not just the cultural practices that make Japanese culture stand out. Their language, full of honorifics and levels of politeness, also sets them apart. Then there's their food, a delicate blend of flavors that has gained worldwide recognition. In essence, the uniqueness of Japanese culture is a result of its history, geography, and the people's steadfast commitment to preserving their traditions while embracing modernity. This blend of factors creates a culture that is intriguing, multifaceted, and yes, sometimes perceived as weird. To fully understand this, we need to delve into the depths of Japanese culture and how it compares to other cultures around the world. At the heart of Japanese culture lies a deep respect for harmony, balance, and the natural world. These core values shape every facet of Japanese life, from the soaring rooftops of ancient temples to the meticulous precision of a tea ceremony. Let's explore the principle of harmony, or wa. In Japan, wa is more than just a concept, it's a way of life. It's the glue that binds society together, promoting peace and unity over conflict and individualism. Harmony permeates every aspect of Japanese culture, from its art and architecture to its social structures. The Japanese strive for harmony not just among people, but between humans and nature, and even within oneself. Now consider balance. This is another fundamental tenet of Japanese culture, evident in the very fabric of its society. The Japanese have a knack for finding balance in all things, whether it's balancing work with play, tradition with innovation, or the individual with the group. This pursuit of equilibrium is deeply ingrained in the Japanese psyche, and it manifests in everything from their art to their cuisine. Next, let's delve into the Japanese reverence for nature. In Japan, the natural world is not seen as a resource to be exploited, but as a sacred entity to be respected and protected. This respect for nature is reflected in traditional Japanese arts like ikebana, the art of flower arrangement, and in the practice of celebrating the changing seasons with special festivals and customs. Finally, we come to wa, or unity. This principle is the cornerstone of Japanese society, promoting a sense of community and collective responsibility. The Japanese believe in the power of the group over the individual, and this principle is deeply embedded in their social etiquette, from bowing to sharing meals. These core values, while admirable, can seem strange to those unfamiliar with them, leading to the perception of weirdness. But remember, what may seem weird to one person may simply be a reflection of a culture that values harmony, balance, and respect for nature above all else. When we compare Japanese culture to Western culture, the differences become even more pronounced. Let's delve into the social norms. In the West, there's an emphasis on expressing oneself and being unique. This individualistic mindset encourages self-expression and rewards those who stand out. On the other hand, in Japan there's a saying, "The nail that sticks out gets hammered down." This metaphor encapsulates the value placed on group harmony and conformity, where standing out can often be seen as disruptive to the social order. Next, let's consider the values. Western societies often prize independence, valuing the ability to stand alone and take care of oneself. In contrast, Japanese society values interdependence, where individuals rely on one another to maintain harmony. This is evident in the concept of omotenashi, or selfless hospitality, where the needs of others are placed before one's own. Now, on to traditions. Western societies often celebrate personal achievements, birthdays, and individual milestones. In Japan, however, many traditions revolve around the changing seasons in nature. Hanami, the viewing of cherry blossoms, and tsukimi, the viewing of autumn moon, are just a few examples of how Japanese traditions are deeply tied to their natural surroundings. Moving on to communication, Western societies often value directness and assertiveness. In contrast, Japanese communication is often subtle and indirect, with an emphasis on understanding unspoken feelings and intent. This is reflected in the Japanese concept of kuki wo yomu, or reading the air, which signifies the importance of understanding implicit communication. Lastly, there's the contrast in the approach to conflict. Western societies often view conflict as something to be resolved through open discussion and compromise. In Japanese society, conflict is often avoided to maintain group harmony, with an emphasis on preserving relationships and face-saving. These stark differences can further contribute to the perception of Japanese culture as weird. Yet it's worth noting that these differences are what make each culture unique and fascinating in its own right. Japan's unique history and geography have also played a significant role in shaping its distinct culture. Let's dive into this a bit further. Japan's geographical location, nestled between the Pacific Ocean and the Sea of Japan, has been an essential factor in its cultural evolution. Being an archipelago, Japan was relatively isolated from the rest of the world for a significant part of its history. This isolation encouraged a unique culture to bloom, free from external influences and interruptions. Imagine, if you will, a seed planted in a secluded garden, left to grow and develop in its own way. This is precisely what happened with Japanese culture. It flourished in its own unique manner, resulting in a mix of customs, traditions, and practices that seem exotic and at times peculiar to outsiders. Now let's take a step back in time. Throughout its history, Japan was predominantly influenced by two religions, Shintoism and Buddhism. Shintoism, the indigenous faith, is deeply rooted in the Japanese people's respect and reverence for nature and ancestors. It's no wonder then that you'll find Japanese people visiting temples on New Year's Day or participating in local festivals that celebrate the changing seasons. Buddhism, while imported from the Asian continent, has also left a profound impact on Japanese culture. It introduced concepts of meditation and mindfulness and permeated various aspects of life, including art, literature, and even the ceremonial preparation of tea. These religious influences have shaped the Japanese people's outlook on life and death, their interpersonal relationships, and their daily routines, adding another layer to the so-called weirdness of Japanese culture. But remember, the term weird is subjective. What seems weird to one person may be perfectly normal to another. It's all about perspective. The weirdness others perceive in Japanese culture is simply a manifestation of a culture that has developed in its own unique way, shaped by the forces of history and geography. These historical and geographical factors have given rise to a culture that is uniquely Japanese, adding to its perceived weirdness. Instead of labeling Japanese culture as weird, perhaps we should celebrate its uniqueness and diversity. In a world where we often focus on our differences, it's essential to remember that diversity is the richness of life. It's what makes the world an exciting and enlightening place to live. Japan, with its unique culture, is a perfect example of this. The distinctiveness of Japanese culture is not just a point of interest, it's a testament to the human spirit's resilience and adaptability. This culture, born out of a rich history and geographical isolation, has managed to preserve its traditions while also embracing modernity. It's in the meticulous preparation of sushi, the soulful strumming of a shamisen, the precision of a tea ceremony, and the futuristic neon landscapes of Tokyo. Japanese culture is a fascinating blend of old and new, East and West. It shows us that tradition and innovation can coexist harmoniously. It teaches us the value of balance, respect, and harmony in our lives. And it gives us beautiful art forms like manga and anime, which have transcended borders and become global phenomena. But what makes Japanese culture truly special is its people. Their commitment to excellence, their respect for others, their dedication to preserving their culture, and their willingness to share it with the world. It's these traits that make Japanese culture so endearing and admirable. Rather than viewing Japanese culture as weird, we should appreciate it for its uniqueness. We should strive to understand it, learn from it, and let it enrich our perspective of the world. After all, every culture has something valuable to offer, and Japanese culture is no exception. In embracing the uniqueness of Japanese culture, we're not just acknowledging its distinctiveness, we're also celebrating the diversity of the human experience. We're recognizing that our differences are what make us interesting, and that understanding and appreciating these differences can lead to a more harmonious world. In the end, what might seem weird to some is simply a reflection of the rich tapestry of human culture, and Japanese culture is a vibrant thread in that tapestry.